Coach, as you look back at yesterday's game, did you find a couple of things that will help you fine-tune your lineup for the regular season opener?
Yeah, I think we learned some things. I mean, we're gonna, and we've all watched the film. We'll sit down this afternoon and kind of look at our lineup, look at our, what areas that showed up as far as what we're going to need to focus on here in the next few weeks. It's actually kind of nice to be able to have a bye week next week because then we'll be able to, really get down to some more details within our game. This is a short work week, so we won't get as much done probably as we'd like to. And, I think that so there was a lot of positives, a lot of things that I liked, but there's also some things that we have to really buckle down on and focus on.
As you go into the first regular season game, I know the importance you put on the center position. You had O'Leary and Graham, Burke, and Pavanka. Could that be a group that could be a strength or one of the strengths of this team?
Yeah, I feel good about where we are with our forward depth. Now, scoring depth is another question, but the bigger thing is going to be probably just trying to come up with power play units that are going to be productive. And I've always said in the past it's important to have two units because if you only play one unit, all the time that's scoring, then generally you're getting half a power play every time you have a power play. So that'll be the bigger question as far as what we do on the power plays. But I think that up front we've got good depth where we can play four lines consistently. I think that's a positive. On the back end, we're a little young back there, and it's going to take some time for us to get some of those young guys up to speed.
Since you mentioned the power play, is a guy like Lieberman that could be a factor in getting that area going pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think that's why we recruited him a few years ago. It was hard for him to get in the lineup last year because we had better depth. But Nicky's he's gonna be a key guy for us this year as far as kind of filling that void that Bobby Nardella had. And there was, I thought he did pretty well yesterday. We need him to continue to work on his game defensively so he can play 5-on-5 as well on a consistent basis. But he has the offensive instincts, and he's a guy that likes to get up at the ice and make plays offensively. So, I think that he will be a key guy for us going into this year.
When we talked yesterday, Cale's kind of day-to-day. Is there any update on where he stands?
No, just it's not a major injury. It's just a minor thing that, this time of the year it's better to be precautionary, and especially with the bye week coming up next week, I'd like to make sure he's fully healthy before we throw him in there. And, I had planned on playing the freshman at least one or two games during this stretch anyways, so it just makes it a more natural ability to play him.
What's been your early impression of Bishop?
I thought he was a little nervous to start the game yesterday, but I thought he settled down in the second, third period. I thought he did a really good job, made some key saves for us. I was really impressed with his puck decisions too. He handled the puck fairly well, kind of like Dylan St. Cyr. He's got good puck handling skills, which could be an asset for us. But he made some good saves. He's got a lot of the same tendencies as Cale, plays similarly. There's a few things that him and I've talked about that, he's going to need to focus on here in this first year. Try to tighten up his stance a little bit and, make sure now that he also was just like 3 days into new equipment too, which is a little challenging, not as much as it used to be back when I played where you had to take a baseball bat to your pads, but it's also an adjustment, I'm sure, to some degree with new skates, new pads, new gloves, all that stuff. Everybody's getting stuff late, even NHL goalies with equipment nowadays. So I think he's got a chance to be an exceptional college goalie, and that bodes well for the future. We've got four guys that can probably all play right now, and I'm not a fan of four goalies, but it is what it is, and the goalie coach is going to have extra responsibilities this year.
Is that what happened with the Tigers this year? They had too much equipment changes and it affected them?
I don't think it affected him, but it's just something that, until he gets acclimated to new equipment, it makes a difference.
If you would, your thoughts with the Dylan situation. You're going to redshirt him.
That was the intent going into the year. The injury to Cale kind of, threw a little monkey wrench into that possibly. But, I'd like to try to hold out here and see if, Bishop, we recruited him to be our backup goalie, so he's got to be ready to play. So actually getting these games early on is not a bad thing. Dylan, I think that, maybe all of us might have thought that Cale might have signed last year, and that's why Bishop came in. We were bringing him in to replace Cale. So when Cale decided he was going to return for his senior year, then it was a tough thing that we had to deal with, and Bishop was still coming in. It was just a matter of Dylan, I think, was kind of biting at the bit, trying to thinking he was going to have a chance to be the guy this year. I mean, he was always going to compete with Bishop, but Dylan showed well enough last year that he probably would have got the starting nod this year had Cale not returned.
And you've addressed this with him, and he seems to be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to him about whether or not he wanted to think about, eliminating the redshirt year, potentially play, the first 4, 6 games, 7 games if you can consider the exhibition game. So, but to be honest, I mean, we're talking about the Mike Richter Award winner. We're talking about a guy that's probably going to play, 90% of the games once he gets back, and it's hard for him to make that decision based on 4 games.
And Cale's is an upper.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Probably not this weekend, and you get the benefit of the off week.
Yeah, that's probably the direction we'll go, especially having a day off between games. It makes it a lot easier for the freshmen to be able to. And we have Nick Sanford there, too, that's improved dramatically over the last 2 or 3 years. He's been our 3rd goaltender, and, he's gotten a lot better. So I feel pretty confident if we needed to go that direction that he could go in and play a game for us.
Now, you've made some changes up front. I know you took Graham off of the right side with O'Leary and made him a center. And you were thinking he's more of a center. I think you said something last year. He's more of a center than a right wing kind of guy.
He played his high school career at center, and he's one of our best mental players as far as his playmaking ability. He sees the ice extremely well. He's got center tendencies. He's a 6'3" Dylan Malmquist. He's got great instincts, and I'd like to. I knew automatically that he was going to go to the middle this year, just based on our recruiting class was more, grinders and with the exception of Max Ellis, guys that are a little bit more wingers. We didn't, Janicki has played center in the past, but I don't like playing freshmen at center in their first year, just because there's a lot of responsibilities that go along with it, face-offs being primary, and then also just playing down low in your defensive zone. So, and he's making progress in both those areas.
In baseball, you're only as good as you're up the middle and stuff like that. But in hockey, is it pretty much the same? Centers, defense? Yeah,
I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. And how do you look like you got 3 good centers for now. How do you feel on your 4th line?
Well, I think Cam Burke has actually had a really good camp. He may not be the 4th guy. I mean, right now, I think he's challenging to be more than that. I mean, I think he's been one of our better players in the first 6 weeks. So, I mean, he's a smart player as well. I think we have 4 solid centers, and it's just a matter of whether I keep all of them at center to try to bolster another line.
And was the youth that you have on defense, you thinking about maybe splitting up? I think you had Dello and Alex together yesterday, maybe spreading around some of that experience.
Yeah, we actually started that way, but Tori and Matt both play well together, and last year the 2 sophomores played well together as freshmen. So we put them back together about a week ago in practice, and we might leave it that way. I mean, there's going to be times where the senior and junior will be playing with younger guys, probably more so with the other young guys, as our 3rd pair might get some help from those guys every once in a while. It's not uncommon for us to, double shift those guys with the 3rd pair, with a Lieberman or a Carmichael or a Charlie Wraith, just to give them experience by rotating one of the older guys with them at times.
Last year, you guys 6 out of 7 in the Big Ten scoring per game. Are you confident this team can be better scoring the puck more consistently, or is there something that you haven't do better?
Well, we want to try to get, at a minimum to 3 goals a game. Last year I think we were like 2-8, 2-9. We need to try to get over 3 goals a game if we're gonna, we know we're gonna have goaltending. We know that we can be successful probably. One of our goals is to be better on the penalty kill, which we did. We had a good start yesterday, but power play right now is still a work in progress. Last year our power play was over 20%. And if we can get our penalty kill up, then I'm happy. But right now, the biggest question we have going into this next month here is going to be trying to solidify our power play units. That's my biggest concern. And if we get them going, then I think we can be a 3 goal a game team at least. And that's going to be the priority going into the next few weeks.
What is it going to take for them for that power play unit getting the power play solidified? What do you guys have to do?
Probably personnel first and foremost. We have to truly identify. Yesterday was a great game for us because now it gives us something to build on, something to evaluate where we are. I mean, you can do it in practice. It always looks better in practice sometimes in the actual game. And the power plays, they made some nice plays yesterday, but not on a consistent basis. And we have to get to the point where we're a threat every time we have a power play. But we really need to try to find 2 units that can be productive, not just one. And that's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, that we have, because we only have so many guys that are real instinctive playmaking type of guys, and we've got plenty of guys that can play the net front. We need some guys that that can make plays at the top, and I feel good about Colin Tyson right now, and Alex Steves as being a few guys that can make plays and maybe score some goals. But I mean, just like yesterday, I mean, the guys that we're going to probably rely on are guys like Burke and Morrison as seniors, and certainly Michael Graham. I think that O'Leary's is starting off very well from my perspective. Cam Morrison, I think he's had a good camp as well. We separated him and O'Leary, and I think that's good for a line combination. I'm not sure where we're going as far as separating guys on the power play. So that'll be the biggest challenge.
Obviously, there's some headaches in dealing with the goaltending situation as it stands right now. But is that a good problem to have really 4 guys that you can throw out?
It is, and it isn't. I'd prefer not to have so many guys on scholarship in that position. That's the biggest challenge, and it's had an impact a little bit on our blue line. But it's also the nature of our game now is like you're gambling every year trying to figure out, okay, which juniors might leave, and if you guess the right way, you're in great shape. If you guess the wrong way, you got 4 goalies.
What went into making Cal your captain, and how deserving is he?
He is, he's got potential to be one of our best captains just because, I've only had probably 3 guys that have been captains here that I would say were adults. I mean, that they're very mature, and, guys like Eric Condra was like that, Anders Lee was like that, and probably Stephen Fogarty would be my top 3 guys as far as the maturity factor goes. We've had other good captains, don't get me wrong. Jake Evans and Cal Peterson, all these guys have been good captains for us over the years. TJ Jindra was an adult too my very first year, but they're the ones that are the adult in the room when they're surrounded by a bunch of boys, especially on Saturday nights or whatever. So maturity, certainly, and he's well-spoken, very intelligent kid. He does great in the classroom. He's very well respected by his teammates because he works as hard as anyone. He's heavily involved. He's a bit of a rock star on the other side of campus with the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, with the Rosenthal Leadership Group, and he's a very well spoken and very intelligent young man. And I think like I said, I think he's got a chance to be one of our best captains.
Is there anything specific you want to see first home game of the season?
Well, full building would be nice to start with, but just progress. This time of the year, that's one of the reasons we're fortunate. We start the year with non-conference games. They still have a big impact at the end of the year. I mean, and we have a really sneaky non-conference schedule this year. We reunited some of the old CCHA rivalries, but we're talking about teams that like Bowling Green, Lake State last year, both were extremely good in the WCHA, and they're both probably going to be really good teams this year. And the same thing with Western Michigan. Western Michigan's got a chance, to be one of the top 3 teams potentially in the national conference. So, and then BC's reloaded. So BC will probably be one of the best teams in the country this year, in my estimation. They've got some of the best young talent in the country. So our non-conference schedule is really sneaky, and we're going to have to be prepared, starting this weekend. Air Force, Frank Serratori is a good friend of mine. I know how he coaches. He's had that team in the NCAA tournament a lot over the last 10 years. And they play in the Atlantic Conference, but like the service academies, those teams work harder than any teams in the country. You think of West Point, you think of Army, you think of Air Force. I mean, they're hard teams to play against, and Frank's teams are always challenging to play against. So I expect we'll have our hands full this weekend. And the biggest thing for me though is going to be about progress. We got a good taste yesterday. It was a great game for us playing against that national team to learn some stuff, and now we have to, as coaches, we have to try to implement a few things over the next 3 days, starting tomorrow, to get prepared to play against a team that's going to give us everything we can handle. I mean, they're going to play hard. And college hockey's so close right now, doesn't matter who you're playing. So the only name that we need to look at on the jersey is ours, and make sure that we're working towards getting better.
Has there been, I know you said progress is the thing you're looking for, but has there been like a message that you've been telling your team, we need to do this year, this is what we need to look like going into the season, how we get ready for the season?
Well, it starts every year this time. The biggest thing is being a little loose with the puck. If we're going to have this kind of success that I think we can have, is that we have to do a great job of possessing the puck. It's going to come off the breakout through the neutral zone and then into the offensive zone. We need to possess the puck. We cannot make high-risk turnovers. We cannot make weak plays with the puck in the offensive zone. We made a few bad plays coming out of our zone yesterday where we had options to move the puck right away. We got to get out of our zone fast. If we start going back with the puck or, start doing things, deep in our zone, we're going to get ourselves in trouble. And we did that a couple times yesterday. So to me, that's the number one thing. We'll continue to work on our defensive game, but for me right now, it's going to be about focusing on doing a better job of possessing the puck out of our end, through the neutral zone, and then into the offensive zone.
You as a coach have done pretty much everything in this profession except win the big one here. Do you get a sense every year of something that you maybe need to change or adapt to maybe get to that point, get to the highest point?
So much of it's when you get to the NCAA, first of all, you got to get to the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's the biggest challenge. And we've done that. We put ourselves in position to win one, and we haven't taken that next step. It's a matter of having all the right ingredients. First of all, it starts with the culture of your team. The right group of kids with the right attitude. And, we've had that for the last several years. We've had a really strong culture over the last 7 years probably. We had a couple years where it was drifting a little bit, but it's gotten back, and that part of it is good. Then it's based on, your personnel and your depth. And every year it changes, and you really don't know what that is probably for a little while. But, I think that right now, my biggest thing is going to be solidifying our back end, getting our power play in order, and then try to take care of the things that we went into the season saying, hey, we've got to be a 3-goal plus game offensively, and we have to improve our penalty killing. Those were the two big things for me. But since that point in time, like I said, those are the two things that are in my mind right now, is securing our back end and then also doing a better job on the power play.